Oh, what's up, folks? We're back with episode 6 of the Bnq and Goof show. I am Johnny Bnq Javiden here, as always, with my co-host Nick Goof Goff. How are you doing on this lovely Sunday afternoon, Mr. Goff?
That's a terrible nickname, by the way.
What, Goof?
No, what you just did for yourself. The nickname you gave yourself. I'm doing great.
I didn't give myself that nickname, man.
It's a terrible nickname.
You guys did.
Well,
what? We'll talk about this later. we got business to.
We got a show to make.
Son of a gun. Anyway, let's start off. Kind of nettled now, Goff. Kind of got me in a bad mood. But anyway, let's recap last week's fan poll. We had best player from in basketball from West Virginia versus best basketball player from New Jersey, which pitted the logo Jerry West versus Shaquille O'Neal. Never heard of him, but and in another resounding shutout, Jerry West wins 2-0, which puts Team West Virginia up 2-0 in our state versus state competition. So thanks for all those lovely people who voted for Jerry West. At the end of this episode, which will be we're going to have a little bit of hockey this episode, we're going to have the best hockey players from each state. So stay tuned for that at the end of this episode. So let's get into before we get into the hockey, let's get into some NBA action. NBA, of course, started this week on Tuesday. Some teams that we thought were going to be pretty good are looking pretty good to start out the season. Of course, it's only been a couple games. It's hard to tell how good teams will really be. But starting off with the Clippers, which we think could be the number one team in the West, and they're looking just like how we thought they'd be. Starting off with 2 good wins against the Lakers and Golden State. So they're looking good. Speaking of Golden State's look not that good. So they're definitely going the direction of where we think they could be a lower seed.
And I could even predict that they don't make the playoffs. And they keep going on this trail.
It could be a possibility. Of course, like we said, it's hard to tell if the teams are having success right now will keep it up throughout the season. And the teams are struggling, maybe they pick it up. But anyway, other teams that look good. Philadelphia looked pretty good against Boston. Didn't look great, but they looked pretty good. So I think if they improve along the season, they could definitely be the best team in the East, like we predicted they could be. Lakers looked pretty good at points against the Clippers. It looked better against the Jazz. I think they're going to have a little bit of a slow start, but they look all right now. They look good. A team that I think looked really great, even though they lost their first game, was the Houston Rockets.
They just have to work out the kinks. That's what I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was points in that game where they looked like they could be the best team in basketball, but they had a big lead on Milwaukee for a large chunk of the game. Milwaukee came back in the end and won the game, but I don't think that one loss is going to sink their season. I think they showed a lot of promise. Speaking of Milwaukee, they looked good at the end of that game, but of course not when they were getting destroyed by Houston. And they also ended up losing to the Heat, which may or may not have featured Jimmy Butler. I know he wasn't there for Game 1. I'm not sure about Game 2. But some surprising teams that have done well. Phoenix Suns, Goff called that one.
Underdog team of the year.
Perhaps. They're looking pretty solid. The 2-1 only loss is an overtime loss to the aforementioned Clippers. Or not the Clippers, the Nuggets, right?
Yeah, they lost to the Nuggets in overtime by 1 point.
Yeah, so, a very close game that they could have won, perhaps. And 2 wins. Another team that's 2-0 right now, the Atlanta Hawks. Maybe unexpected. Of course, one of those wins is against a team that we don't think will be that good, Orlando, but the other one was against a pretty solid-looking Detroit team. So, a lot of promising teams right now. Of course, as we said, it's hard to tell how good teams will really be until the season gets in full swing, until we get about the 25-game mark. It's an 82-game season, so being 2-0 is not that big a deal. And the flip side being 0-2 is not that big a deal because there's 80 more games. So, a lot of exciting stuff. I've been really excited for the start of the season. Watching a couple games every day. It's been pretty nice. Now, Goff, you want to get into our NFL picks.
Okay, you want me to start off with my picks?
Sure, Goff.
All right, no problem.
If you insist.
We're gonna start out with one of the most debatable games this weekend because both teams are terrible. We're gonna go with the Tennessee Titans versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I believe this is a toss-up game, and it could easily go the other way for either one. But I believe the Bucs come out and pull out the W somehow, some way, just because I do not trust who's that quarterback they just because they benched Mariota and brought in Tannehill. Yeah. Right. Tannehill's not good at all. So I'm gonna take Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
with the
I
Bucs.
Feel you. I think that's a pretty good pick. Who else you got this week?
49ers versus the Panthers.
Well, that sounds like a good one.
There's a chance for an upset here since Kyle Island, or however you pronounce his last name.
You mean Allen?
Allen.
Very, very common last name.
Not around from here. I think there could be an upset on the rise right here, and they could actually knock the Niners down to get their first loss of the season. So I'm going upset city right there.
Ooh, that's intriguing, Goff.
That's my upset of the week.
I like it how you go against the grain, Goff.
Yes, always gotta go against the grain. Besides when you're shaving. Next game is Buffalo versus the Phillies. The Eagles from Philly.
You're telling me the Buffalo Bills will be playing the baseball team, Philadelphia Phillies?
Yeah, Bryce Harper is going to be a QB.
All right. Well, they got to do something while they're not in the World Series.
So, anyways, I believe that Buffalo's defense, since I'm a defensive-minded person and defense wins games.
True that.
Buffalo defense shits on Philly's defense. So, we're going to take Buffalo covering the spread.
Ooh, interesting.
Of 1 point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with any of those picks, Goff. Well, the Carolina one could be a stretch, but
could be a stretch.
It wouldn't be that big. It wouldn't be that surprising. Carolina's really good with Kyle Allen. Get into my picks. We'll start off with a really good one first. We have Kansas City versus Green Bay. I believe that's the Sunday night game.
Yes, it is.
So that's going to be a good one in prime time. Of course, Kansas City's looked down a little bit, losing to Houston and
Colts.
Yeah, the Colts. But I believe, if I'm not incorrect, they will have Patrick Mahomes back. That's what I've heard. It's questionable.
Yeah, he's questionable. We'll find out later today.
Yeah, we will find out tonight. And, of course, Green Bay's looked pretty good, only losing to Philadelphia so far. But I'm thinking that Kansas City gets their mojo back, maybe gets Mahomes back, their Mahomes Joe. Dare I say, back? No, not good? Okay. But I think I'm going to pick Kansas City in that one. Moving on to Oakland.
By the way, I disagree with that pick, but moving on.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're the one that said Carolina would beat 49ers, so I thought I'd follow your upset
Yeah, but you also got to look at the defense.
mentality.
And the defense.
Yeah, well, Kansas City's defense has been playing better the past couple weeks.
Yeah, but they're one of the worst defenses in the league right now.
Well, yeah, like I
compared
said,
to Green Bay's defense, which is one of the best. But go ahead.
I'm thinking they're picking up. Anyway, Oakland versus Houston. Oakland, I think, has had some good games this year. Of course, last week it got blown out by Green Bay. But
that was Aaron Rodgers. It's reasonable.
Yeah, and Houston hasn't looked as good as I thought they would. So I think this game's kind of a toss-up. But I think I'll go Oakland just because, because I'm a Raiders fan, more or less. But also I think they have a good, solid chance of beating this team. I mean, they beat Chicago, and Chicago's a solid team. I don't think Houston is as good as Chicago, so it makes sense that they'd be.
I would walk that statement back, but okay.
What statement? You don't think Chicago's better than Houston?
I think Houston's way better than Chicago. Team wise, like offense, well, you can't even say defense.
I mean, I guess if you take their team as a whole, it's probably more talented. But I mean, they haven't had as much success as Chicago this year.
But looking at who Chicago beat compared to who Houston beat is a completely different representation of their season.
Yeah, I guess you got a point there, Goff. But you got to look at Oakland. They have arguably the best tight end group in the NFL. I mean, Darren Waller's just been a beast.
And they have a Rookie of the Year running back.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
So, and they had great success against a great Green Bay defense last week, as you mentioned. So I think that it stands to reason that they should have just as much, if not more, success against Houston's less talented defense. So, again, I will pick Oakland in that matchup. Going to possibly the most one-sided game in my picks, Seattle versus Atlanta. Very obviously, I'll pick Seattle. Seattle's looked fantastic. Atlanta has looked terrible, surprisingly.
And Matty Ice is injured.
Oh, is that a fact? I didn't even know that.
Yes.
But, yeah. It doesn't. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot Matt Schaub will be starting.
Yep. So, count that as an L.
Yeah, even more so.
Yep.
And I think it was the last time we had picks, I had picked Atlanta in an upset. But I think I have given up all faith in Atlanta from this point on. So
it's really hard to be a Falcons fan.
It really is. It's going to be a tough season for them. But anyway, that was all my picks, and you've done all your picks. So let's move on to some hockey, giving our top 8 playoff predictions for the NHL. You want to start West Coast, East Coast first?
Let's start in the West.
All right, I'll go first. Since my pick, I'm not a big hockey fan, so my picks are going to be all garbage. So we'll just get mine out of the way first, and then you can do yours. All right, for my number 1 in the West, I'm going to go the San Jose Sharks because they did good last year, I guess. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. Number 2, I got the St. Louis Blues because they won the Stanley Cup daggone it last year, and I forgot about them, so I'll put them at 2. Number 3, I'll put the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Remember them? They're new. 4, I'll put the Los Angeles Kings because why not? 5, I'll put the Dallas Stars. At this point, I'm just thinking of the first Western Conference team that pops in my brain. 6, Anaheim Ducks. That's still a team, right?
Yeah.
7, the Nashville Predators. And at 8, the good old Minnesota Wild. How'd I do, Goff?
You did okay. I mean,
Really?
yeah, not too bad. I mean, there's only like 3 or 4 that
Actual playoff teams in that group?
Yeah.
Fair enough. I was thinking maybe it'd be 0.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on with my Western picks. I'm gonna go the Oilers.
These are the real picks, so everyone pay attention to these ones.
I'm gonna go Oilers number 1, and I'm just gonna read them off to you. Oilers, Golden Knights, Calgary, the St. Louis Blues, then the Avalanche,
Colorado,
followed by the Stars, Predators, and then coming in at the 8th seed is Winnipeg Jets.
Well, got a lot of Canadian teams in that. I forgot about those guys.
I mean, hockey's mostly Canadian anyhow.
Huh?
Hockey is mostly Canadian,
Oh,
player-wise.
That's right. Yeah,
I mean, even though...
a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup playoff for a long time, though.
Yeah, it's been like almost 20 years since that happened, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not if you're Canadian.
All right, so I'm gonna move on. To the East.
All right, let me go. Let me use my garbage picks first.
No, let me go first, so we can
All
compare
right,
them.
That's for last, but fine.
We're going Bruins number 1, Lightning number 2, Maple Leafs number 3, Hurricanes number 4, Islanders number 5. Now this is where it gets tricky for me. It's between the Blue Jackets, Flyers, and Penguins. I'm gonna go with Penguins, Flyers, and Blue Jackets coming in with the last seed.
That's interesting because I have a lot of those same teams. So my mentality for the Eastern Conference is I was going to pick a lot of local teams first. So I was going to go Blue Jackets 1, Penguins 2, Flyers 3. And then from then on, I was going to pick 4 the Hurricanes because I remember they did good last year. And 5 Maple Leafs, I guess. 6 Flyers again. No. I'll pick the Islanders. You mentioned those guys. 7, I'll go the Canadians. And 8, I'll go... and by Canadians, I mean, of course, Montreal's team.
Yep.
Not just so people aren't confused. And 8, I'll go Detroit. Why not? See, Goff said from 5 on was where he had trouble. I had trouble from 1 to 8, the whole thing. So that's how I came up with my picks, basically. So there's that. I didn't put in the Bruins because I hate Boston. I think Boston's a garbage town with garbage people. So that's my hot take for the week.
Oh shit!
Unfortunately, a lot of our listeners might be from the Boston area.
It just might be from the Boston area. Might lose a couple fans.
Yeah, well, we didn't have that many to begin with, so. All right, we move on for this. Goff's got a little piece on the NHL that he's going to go over since he knows about this stuff. He was of course, former semi-professional hockey player.
Back in the day, I was. So
yeah, back in the early 60s.
We're gonna talk about who's good and who's bad. Real quick, just like Big John Jivy summed up for NBA. Oilers are on a hot streak, and so are the Stars. Following suit with the Bruins are on a hot streak, and the Lightning are on a hot streak. Now the teams that are doing bad are the Kings, the Ducks.
Wow, those are 2 of my playoff teams, huh? Really?
The Devils, the Rangers. the Panthers. There's a couple teams that are doing really good, and there's a couple teams that haven't won a game yet. But, it's an 82-game season. It's a long season, so...
Let me ask you something, Goff. The Devils, they got my boy PK Subban.
Yes, they do.
I heard about that. And they're still doing bad with him?
They also have a former Flyer, Wayne Simmons, on the team, which was a long-time Flyer, and yes, they're doing terrible.
That's weird. Those are two pretty solid players.
Yes, they are.
Of course, like you said, it's an 82-game season, so you never know if they'll pick it up.
Yeah, they could just go on a hot streak like St. Louis did last year, because St. Louis is at the bottom of the NHL and somehow came back to make a playoff spot.
Yep. All right. So before we close on hockey, your little thing here, tell me a little bit about some of the local teams, how they're doing this year in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and maybe even the Blue Jackets. How are those guys hanging this year?
Well, the Blue Jackets are looking good. Actually, all the teams are for like the local area besides Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's not playing up to what they should be playing up to. The Flyers are a young team, and they're looking very good. They only played 8 games, and they have a winning record. And I think they are 3rd or 4th in the division. So, right now, it's still shaky because some teams already have 12 games under their belt, and some teams only have 7 under their belt. It all depends on how the schedule worked out. So right now it's a little too early to predict, but we're going to do it anyways.
Alrighty. Sounds good, Goff. Good work there.
Alright, so before we close out the show, I just wanted to talk to you about one thing. We're going to go back to football real quick. What do you think of... I actually have 2 things.
Alright.
We're going to start with... Drew Brees coming back.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that's a smart idea, dumb idea? Because New Orleans has a bye next week.
Yeah, and to be honest, they've looked, dare I say, better with Teddy Bridgewater, and they've been 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater.
You really can't complain when your backup comes in and is undefeated.
Yeah, of course, when we're talking about body of work, you gotta pick Drew Brees over Teddy Bridgewater. But, Drew Brees had that injury. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to let Teddy Bridgewater take one more game, go into the bye week, and then he comes back totally 100% healthy. Of course,
you just get that extra time to heal it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't put him back in if they're questionable about him, but still, it never hurts to have another week. And, when the team's on a roll like this, it's hard to think about just switching it up like that. Maybe if you give it a bye week, you have a little bit more time with Drew Brees to gel back into the system. Of course, they've had practice with him all offseason, but still, it never hurts. Have more preparation. I think it's going to be interesting to see that game this week. Who are they playing? The Saints? This week? I can't remember.
Give me 1 second. I'll look that up right now. No, they're playing the Cardinals.
Oh, well, that could be a good warm-up game, I guess.
If he gets hurt, it's not even worth it.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Because the Cardinals, compared to the Saints, the Cardinals are trash.
Yeah.
Compared to the Saints.
And in fact, ends up messing up their chemistry and they lose to the Cardinals. That could really be an unnecessary blow.
Big blow.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. Good looks on bringing that up, Goff. I totally forgot about that.
And then my second thing is a trade rumor for Cam Newton to be traded to the Bears.
Yeah, I'd heard a lot of rumors about Cam Newton being traded. I haven't heard any specific teams, other than the Bears, I guess. But, it's interesting. I mean, is Cam Newton even healthy now, or what?
I think he is, and they're just not trying to mess up what Kyle Allen is doing.
Yeah, kind of the same situation as New
Bridgewater.
Orleans, then more or less.
Yeah.
Only they've opted to not put Cam Newton back in, which is interesting. Because, I mean, Cam Newton's undeniably one of the top quarterbacks in the league, top 10 or whatever.
Was a top 10.
Yeah, was.
He did not start this year out like he should have.
Yeah, and maybe that totally changes his career if he gets traded. And the Bears, Trubisky's still out for Chicago, aren't they?
No, Trubisky comes back this week.
Oh, okay.
But I think Trubisky is a terrible quarterback.
Yeah, he's definitely has ups and downs. More downs than ups. Just saying like it is. But, yeah, that could be interesting. I'm not sure what they'd have to... I mean, you'd have to think it'd be a first-round pick at least.
No.
Or something comparable. You don't think? For Cam Newton?
No. I'd say a second and a third pick.
Ramsey, they trade like what, two first-round picks?
Yeah, but that's a generational defensive player right there. You're gonna tell me Cam Newton's a generational player? I mean, back in the early 2000, like when he first got drafted, but right now he's becoming more like RG3.
I don't know if I'll go that far, but what I'm saying is
that's my hot take.
Quarterbacks always get overvalued, I think. So I think that they definitely would have to give more than he's worth, kind of, to get him. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
All right. It's all right. We'll move on. So, what's your best hockey player from West Virginia?
Oh, we're going right into that?
Yep.
All right, yeah. All right, yeah. We'll get right into our final segment. As far as I'm aware, there are 0 professional hockey players to ever come from the state of West Virginia.
So I'll take that forfeit, and I'll take the W, because there are multiple hockey players coming out from New Jersey. And currently breaking up on our recording right now. So I'm going to take it in myself and end the show. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the show. Thanks for listening. Please vote and subscribe and like or dislike. Leave comments so we know how to make the show better. Thank you, and have a good night, guys.